Hello and welcome once more to Red Gaming Tech. My name is Amata. Today is the 4th of April, and this time I have some rather interesting comments from Brad Wardell, and this time he spoke to Gaming Bolt regarding the Xbox One and its processing power, and how it can be increased using the cloud. And well, DX12 is of course rapidly approaching and it's showing a huge amount of potential, as we have shown in our testing. I put a couple of links in the description for this video, where we have tested low-end versus high-end GPUs on DX12 versus DX11. You can see the insane amount of difference that you get in the amount of draw calls. However, is there also a possibility that the Xbox One could be getting even more of a beast with the cloud? And Brad Wardell had this to say, quote, "That is a yes and a no. I don't want to weasel out on that because there are specific cases where you can. Microsoft just needs to make a case. I don't want it to be my job to make the case, but let me give you a few examples of where it could come into play, since to my knowledge, Microsoft has not actually put out any examples." Now, he went on to then say that resource-intensive things such as, say, procedurally generating terrains, which could be used in open-world games, is something that could potentially be offloaded onto the cloud. And he said, quote, "Procedurally generated terrain is one of the most expensive things you can do. You do not need to do it in real time, but it takes a heck of a lot of CPU power. Let's give you an example. Let's say I'm playing a role-playing game and I want a really sophisticated, we're talking next Elder Scrolls game. It's obviously not. I have no idea what they're doing, but it's just an example of a game that might use something like this. And I want to have an incredibly sophisticated terrain that is going to support rivers and streams, forests and mountains, and I want it to be very detailed." And then he went on to say, "They're not powerful enough to generate that sort of thing easily to that detail. You could put that in the cloud and the results of that procedural generation will be sent over to your Xbox One. So you could get this amazing scene without any loading screens. Remember the old days we used to have loading next area of the game? This sort of thing could prevent that kind of stuff." But according to Brad, well, it basically is down to Microsoft, and they need to basically make a case for the tech, give some benchmark numbers, and basically give examples, and basically physically show, look, this is the power of cloud processing on Xbox One. They need to actually show people, because, well, I noticed a few comments on our DX12 videos that a lot of people were really surprised that the API made such a huge difference. Obviously, some people were kind of like, yeah, I knew DX12 was going to be massive. But quite a few people were like, wow, the API makes this much of an impact, I never would have thought. And I think cloud gaming could potentially be that. We don't know because we haven't really seen any real examples of it. And Brad seemed to agree with this. He went on to say, quote, "Microsoft needs to make the case for it. I mean, that's the thing they blew with the Kinect. I could tell you how it could be used, how I would use it if I'm Microsoft and I had the money, but I'm not Microsoft and I don't have the money to do something that sophisticated." So there you go. I did just give you the highlights of this interview that he had with Gaming Bolt. I will link the source in the description below this video. I've given you most of the good information, but he did go into a little more detail regarding procedural generation, and there's a few videos that they've linked as well. So I suggest you give their article a look-see, as it is quite interesting. But I definitely think that the Xbox One cloud processing has the potential to be interesting. Now, obviously, using it to procedurally generate environments could potentially be useful, because then, while the latency problem is still in play, it's not as much as if you're using it to, say, render an enemy or something like that. You can still load, but you're loading it from the cloud, and then once it's loaded, the cloud isn't doing anything that would potentially ruin your experience by having latency problems. So, while it can be used for something that, you need immediate response from, like hitting an enemy or anything like that, it could potentially be used for environments and things like that. So I definitely think that Microsoft need to kind of shape up their game and actually give us some examples and say, look, this is the power of the cloud if you were to use it in XYZ fashion or whatever. As of course we've done that with DX12, we can see for ourselves the power of DX12, obviously not full power because it's not actually out yet, but we can see it with testing the potential that it has to be a really game-changing API. So I feel like that's what they need to do, so I'm definitely with Brad on this one. But do let me know your thoughts and opinions though, and I'll see you next time.